Welcome to the Friendly Podcast Guide, sorting through podcasts so you don't have to. I'm Andy Smiley, and I want to help you discover the right podcast without having to listen to an entire episode. Now, let's talk podcasts. Hello, my sign is Leo, and if I'm being completely honest, I don't know much about what that means for me. But my new friend Josh Sanchez does, and he uses his knowledge of psychology, mental health, and astrology to bring a unique perspective to his podcast. Josh is a graduate student focusing on the goal of becoming a mental health counselor. The length of each episode is about 30 minutes to an hour. The series is ongoing with new episodes available weekly. Before we learn more about the vibe of the show, we're going to take a quick break to talk about Olive and June nail polish. The gift-giving season is upon us, and I know how hard it can be to find the perfect gift for your loved ones. Well, let me make your life a little bit easier. You should gift the nail painters in your life with a mani or pedi system from Olive and June. I use their mani system, and my nail polish will stay on for a week with no chipping. It brings me so much joy every time I look at my nails with these fun colors, and you can give that same joy to your loved ones. You can get 20% off a mani or pedi system by using the affiliate link in the show notes. Now we get to hear from Josh as he talks about his own personal journey to starting his podcast, Your Spiritual Best Friend. Thank you so much for being here, Josh.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Very excited for the opportunity.
Well, I'm glad. I'm excited too. First of all, can you introduce yourself a little bit and your podcast?
Oh, of course. So I'm the host of Your Spiritual Best Friend. So my name is Josh Sanchez. I'm currently a graduate student. I'm studying to get my master's in clinical counseling. So I have a year and a half left, so I'm super excited for that. But I also do astrology chart readings for people, one-on-one, 1-hour sessions. And that's been fun too. So I combine the two. So mental health and psychology topics as well as astrology. It's been a lot of fun.
That is a lot of fun and definitely unique. That's awesome. I feel like when I listened to an episode, I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. Like just like a merge of both. So why did you start your podcast?
Yeah, so it's crazy how it started. So I took a gap year after I graduated in undergrad. So I graduated in 2020. That was the year when the COVID hit and the whole pandemic happened. And
yes,
literally 2 months before my graduation, everything shut down. So we went from seeing classes to going virtual. Didn't have my graduation. My graduation got pushed to the late summer, but by that time, I was conscious of my siblings, so I didn't get to walk and stuff. I received my degree and stuff through the mail. So I took a gap year just to reset and reevaluate myself and my priorities. I've always had a passion for helping people, and that's where the podcast really went in. And I learned more about astrology during that gap year as well. And I was like, why not try and combine the two? So shout out to my girlfriend and her best friend. Them two, we would sit and have life talks, and in astrology we brought up in the mix. And I was like, I could definitely see myself doing this as a podcast. And now it's been a full year of Your Spiritual Best Friend. It's been a lot of fun meeting a lot of new people, connecting with a lot of new people. And that's how the podcast pretty much got started in a quick little summary.
That's awesome. That's really fun. And I love it when we have other people that like have our backs and like encourage us to do fun new things. That's awesome. So what do you want people to get out of your podcast?
Yeah, so with my podcast, like whenever I have guests come on, I break it down into 3 parts. So like the first part is more because we all have journeys and we all have perspectives on things because we all go through stuff, even for you, like creating your own podcast, like that was a journey along itself, similar to me in creating my podcast. So the first part really focuses on that. The second part focuses on relationships because relationships play a big part in our lives. All it takes is meeting one person to really give you that big impact. We all have those couple people we go to when things are tough. And we always have those people in our lifetime that we've learned a lot of stuff from as we grow, And then the third part, I had a little astrology part where I have my guest. Before we record, they do their own little chart. And I do a little reading based off of that, just like their sun, moon, and if they have like any like if I interviewed someone that had like 5 planets in one house, I was like, so how do you feel about this? So it's like So it's like that's all the three parts combined. So I really want the listeners just to get out of it, just like learning some new things from each guest. Like I've interviewed truck drivers, I've interviewed mental health, spiritual healers, I've interviewed yoga therapists and Reiki experts. The podcast again is just there to be of aid and be of service to others. So if you tune in, you like an episode, that's great. And that's pretty much what it's about. It's all about spreading, because the more we're aware of certain issues and certain topics, the more we know and become more knowledgeable of it. So that's what my podcast, that's my goal at the end of the day, is to just have a cool, unique perspective, have a fun conversation, and learn something new throughout each person. So yeah.
I absolutely love that. I feel like you've talked about it, but I want to nail down like the vibe of your show. What would you consider the vibe of your show?
Yeah, so the vibe of my show is pretty much it's like a free flowing conversation. That's what I really try to do because I learned a lot in undergrad. Like when you conduct interviews with people, like you want to make them feel as comfortable as possible. So the majority of my podcast, I do have guests come on, and we just have just a free flowing, down to earth conversation. I might have like a couple questions lined up, but other than that, like it's based off of whatever that my guest is speaking. It's based off of their answers stuff. So it's definitely just a free flowing, down to earth conversation, and that's what I really want to try. Like I don't want it to feel structured or intense, and I've loved it. It's been great. At the end of the day, I've learned so much through the guest as well. So yeah.
That is super awesome. I absolutely love that. I am going to have you tell me your favorite episode or couple of episodes, but first, can you tell me where people can find you so that I don't forget to say that at the end?
Oh, of course. So your spiritual best friend, it's on a lot of platforms. I have a whole link tree that has everything, but Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Pandora. I switched to Podbean. I switched platforms. I was on Anchor and I switched to Podbean, and that platform has really helped me just get my podcast on as many platforms as possible. So that's where you guys can check me out. I also do weekly talks on wisdom. I do live talks, and I also do some chart readings as well for people. So that's another whole other platform that I really like to do as well. Wisdom is really cool to connect with some people too.
Definitely. Okay. I absolutely love that. I will make sure to link all of that in the show notes on my website so that people can jump to wherever they want to go. Okay. Now is the moment of truth. What was your favorite episode or couple of episodes from your show?
Yeah, so for me, some couple standpoint episodes. I interviewed a woman about grief, and I believe that was episode number 67. So it's one of the new recent ones. But she really talks about her journey caretaking her husband for 8 years. He had Parkinson's disease, and seeing him slowly decline for her, it was a lot to handle. Like she was losing herself, but then she learned how to regain herself, and she ended up going on like a 500-mile like jog through the forget what it's called, Santiago. It's like it's somewhere foreign, but it was like 500 miles, and it was really cool. She really like gave me a new eye-opening experience with how everyone handles grief, because we all handle grief differently.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're human beings, we all respond to anxieties and trauma completely different from one another. So that was one episode that really stood out. Another one I really like was my friend Juan Francisco. I met over social media. He's a really cool person. He actually did a live tarot card reading of me.
Oh,
So
cool.
me and him, we did a 2-part podcast. So it's 2 different parts. So the first part, I interviewed him about his journey, what led him into mediumship, like what is he really like, what really led him into that. And then the second part, he did a live tarot card reading, and I believe that was episode around 26. And then it was a bonus episode, so right after that. So that was really cool. It was a cool little 2-part. That was my first time ever doing a 2-part series with somebody. So someone that was really cool with even providing that. I've also another one that I've really enjoyed it, and I enjoy all of them because they all bring unique perspectives. But those
Definitely.
are the top two. Those are the top two. The third one, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I know I interviewed my grandmother. That was fun.
That would be
It was
so fun.
Yeah, it was fun. I got a whole new perspective. I just did one with my girlfriend and my best friend. The three of us, we did a live Q&A. So that was the most recent one. So there's a lot that I really love it because everyone brings their own flair and their own perspective on the things. But those are the four just quick off the top of my head that I would go to.
Nice. Well, that's just a place for people to start, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
So, because my podcast is specifically for moms and parents, I always like to ask, is your podcast okay for little ears, or should we pop a headphone in when we listen?
Yeah, so a couple episodes, yes. So I mark on all my episodes explicit just because some trauma talk will be brought up. But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to curse words and stuff, there's only been like I can count the number of probably like 5 out of the 70 that I've recorded have
Oh,
had
wow.
some form of cuss words in it.
So, not
But
much.
yeah, so not much, but I did mark all of them explicit just in case. So it's good to monitor though, I would say. But like we're all learning things through each other at the end of the day. So yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so it sounds like probably headphones. And if you're not, then maybe read the like show description so you have an idea of what you're getting into.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to add that we haven't touched on yet?
I mean, the only thing that I really have to say is, like we all have our own journeys that we're going through, remember to appreciate the journey that you're on. We focus so much on the destination. I know I've been guilty of that so many times. Like I've been thinking I can't wait to graduate, but it's like, it's the journey to graduation, the journey you meet new people and you find these new avenues and stuff and just learn to appreciate the journey along the way regardless of whatever you are experiencing. So yeah.
That's fabulous. Well, thank you so much. I cannot wait to introduce your podcast to my listeners and hopefully help them to learn more about their journeys and get some astronomical advice as well. I don't know if that's the right term, but we're going to go with
Yeah.
it.
Oh yeah, you're good. Yeah, we're gonna go for it as well. And it's cool. Astrology is really cool. I 10 out of 10 recommend it. There's so much more than just your sun sign. There's houses, there's planets, there's signs, and there's aspects. So there's so much more. So yeah. Thank you
There
for
you go.
having me as well.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you know someone who could use your spiritual best friend in their life, will you share this episode with them? And if you want a gift for the nail polish lovers in your life, use my affiliate link to get 20% off a mani or pedi system for them. Talk to you soon. Also, Josh did give me a reading, which was super fun. Here is what he had to say about what it means to be a Leo.
So Leos obviously are very fiery, like very passionate energy, like they're the lion, so they're very like me centric. That's what they can rub off a little bit like that because Leo is ruled by the sun. So
Right.
literally the sun lights up all of the planets. So you are not going to really have a lot of problems with connecting and finding people because people will just naturally gravitate towards you because you are ruled by the sun. That's just an example.